So we're all set ready for meditation. So if we could just sit up nice and straight. It's important to keep the spine as straight as possible. Just take a couple of deep breaths. Just breathe in relaxation. And with the out breath, just let go of any stress, any tension you're holding in your physical body. Breathe in peace and harmony in your mind. And with the out breath, just let go of any thoughts, any ideas that may be filling your mind. There's nothing you need to think about at this time. And I'll just go through the head and neck and breathing exercises, explaining each one as we go. And we'll start off with the head neck exercises. So just drop the head forward, chin to the chest, and back up again, slowly and gently, and do that 3 times. And then drop the head back, looking up towards the ceiling, bring it upright again, and do that 3 times. Nice and gentle, you don't have to strain or stretch. Then drop the head down towards the right shoulder and back up again, and do that 3 times. And while you're doing it, just visualize your eyesight getting better. Imagine that these exercises are a positive influence on the optic nerve, which the Cayce readings recommended. And drop the head down to the left shoulder and back upright again 3 times. Drop the head forward, chin to the chest, and then rotate 360 degrees all the way around to the right. 3 rotations. Nice and slowly, nice and gently. Bring the head up again. And then drop the chin down towards the chest again and do 3 rotations, starting around to the left. 360 degrees. Okay, now the breathing exercises. So breathe in through the right nostril and out through the mouth 3 times. And now breathe in through the left nostril and out through the right nostril 3 times. And now the Lord's Prayer, which is a prayer of attunement and a prayer of protection. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen. And now an affirmation that we can use if we wish to focus our minds during meditation. Be still and know that I am one with God. And now the second prayer of protection. As we open our hearts to the unseen forces that surround the throne of grace, beauty, and might, we throw about ourselves the protection found in the thought of the Christ. If we can just go into the silence for about 8 to 10 minutes. Would you end your meditation now, please, and bring your awareness back into your room, to your body. And Father, Mother God, Christ Jesus, we ask that the meditations that we have had this evening may have raised the energy that we may now send out to all of those who need healing, especially anyone that has no one else to pray for them. And we pray that they may receive your gift of healing to their own particular needs and in accordance with thy laws of healing, whatever form that healing may take. Thank you, Father. Welcome back, everyone.
The first reading is The Inner Power of Silence, Part 1, Week 1, Part 1, Introduction. Introduction, Meditation Facts and Fallacies. Meditation is surely a paradox. Although one of the simplest acts we can perform on our own behalf, meditation can affect us in ways unachievable by any other personal act, no matter how complex. Although popular beliefs put the roots for meditation in such Eastern traditions as Hindu, Buddhist, and Taoist thought, the practice of meditation is also deeply rooted in the Western contemplative traditions of Christianity, a fact unknown to most of today's Christians. Although meditation seems to be a process of suppressing awareness of the body and the mind, it can have profound effects on all three levels of our being: physical, mental, and spiritual. The meditator cannot make something happen in meditation. Strained efforts to force a change in consciousness only block success. Paradoxically, it is self-surrender and effortless effort that allow an inner awakening in meditation. Facts about meditation are really confused with non facts and fallacies, some generated over the years to dissuade the average person from meditation. Try deciding what is fact and what is fallacy here. 1. The longer the period of meditation, the better. 2. The meditator's purpose for meditating will influence the effects of the meditation. 3. A meditator must have a specific mantra to repeat during meditation. 4. The body's sex glands act as transformers of creative energy during meditation. 5. Meditation can slow some aspects of the human aging process. 6. Meditation is only a specialized form of prayer. 7. Most experienced meditators encounter a brilliant white light during meditation. You have probably had experience with meditation or writings about meditation if you recognize that only 2, 4, and 5 are facts and the other statements are misconceptions. In this book, you will learn a different view that will enhance your meditation and your understanding of the value of your meditation. To help the reader progress from the practical to the philosophical, the book is divided into two sections. Part 1 is a description of the practice of meditation, the whys, whats, and hows. It covers the basics and yet it presents an in-depth picture of topics ranging from focusing techniques to getting guidance through meditation. Part 2 provides details and the philosophical foundations of the practical steps summarized in Part 1. This section addresses ancient questions like what is our human nature and what role does the body play in spiritual enlightenment. In addition, an appendix provides an overview of what science knows about meditation. Although some studies are referred to in parts 1 and 2, more examples of meditation research are presented in the appendix. The principal resources for this book fall into 6 categories. From Chinese Taoism is The Secret of the Golden Flower, translated by Richard Wilhelm, with a commentary by Carl Jung. Transmitted orally for centuries, the first printing was in the 18th century. Wilhelm attributes these teachings to the 8th century Taoist adept Lu Yen, founder of the religion of the golden elixir of life. A second source, Spiritual Guidance in Contemporary Taoism by Erwin Russell, appears in papers from the Eranos Yearbooks, Volume 4, Spiritual Disciplines, and examines Taoist initiation, meditation techniques, and the pathway of transformation. From the mantric tradition of Tibetan Buddhism are foundations of Tibetan mysticism and creative meditation and multidimensional consciousness, both books by Lama Anagarik Govinda. From Christian mysticism, we sourced Mysticism by Evelyn Underhill, a long study of nature and development of man's spiritual consciousness, one of the most comprehensive studies of Christian mysticism and the pathway to enlightenment. A second source, Contemplation in Christian Mysticism by Friedrich Hayler, also appears in papers from the Eranos Yearbooks, Volume 4, Spiritual Disciplines. It traces the Western heritage of meditation and mysticism and emphasizes the importance of understanding the tradition rather than adopting Eastern meditation techniques. Modern scientific studies. One is the older, highly useful, and insightful book on the psychology of meditation by Claudio Naranjo and Robert Ornstein. Part 1 by Naranjo is a philosophical study of different approaches to meditation. Part 2 by Ornstein focuses on the psychological and scientific aspects of meditation and the implications of altered states of consciousness. In addition, we reviewed research literature of the past 15 years dealing with ideas presented in this book. Intuitively derived information. Two extensive philosophical systems, each the product of the unconscious mind of a psychically gifted individual, often discourses offer sorry offer discourses on spiritual subjects transcribed and published by fellow workers. The psychic readings of Edgar Cayce refer extensively to meditation and the nature of human existence. Cayce gave discourses over 40 years on these and hundreds of other topics from a self-induced altered state of consciousness. Two works by the psychic Ray Stanford are also used. The Spirit unto the Churches is a collection of discourses on the physiology of meditation and the nature of the physical of the spiritual centers. A support team, which included more than one medical doctor, worked with Stanford to formulate the questions for these readings. Creation is one long reading given on the philosophy of humanity's origins. Death psychology. The collected works of the Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung form the principal source for this area. Jung was a pioneer of transpersonal psychology who took great interest in both Tibetan and Taoist philosophies. Although committed to working within the Western tradition, he appreciated the deepest levels of the human psyche, where humanity is one. All parts of this book contribute to the theme of its title, The Inner Power of Silence. In a society preoccupied with power, we must remember what real power is. The violence of manipulation, intimidation, or injury is actually only a caricature of power. These distorted attempts at power too frequently taught and glamorized today are feeble efforts to compensate for impotence. For example, we often try to rule and coerce others in the name of power when we lack the inner wholeness to inspire and lead others. The real power of the universe is spirit, a power not of our own making. Spirit can flow through us as a power to heal and to transform us physically, mentally, and spiritually. Although that power can surely manifest in our outer material life, it must touch us first as an inner resource. Only in personal silence is that possible. A silence that is not merely the absence of sound, but a profound quieting of individual agendas, worries, and fears, so that something universal can be felt. Meditation is not the only way to silence, but it may be the best and most direct. The subtitle of this book also makes a bold claim, a universal way of meditation. Is it realistic to expect that a common set of themes and techniques could be identified from the countless meditation systems available for study? This book proposes that such a cross-cultural approach is possible. In spite of divergent terminologies used, in fact, humanity is one. In other words, a careful examination of Eastern and Western sources reveals, despite certain differences, a common understanding about the nature of mind and body and the roles they play in meditation. If you are new to meditation, we hope this book will help you take the initial steps to integrate meditation into your life. If you are experienced in meditation, We hope you will find new depths of understanding about it and helpful new ideas for enhancing your meditation experience and its values to you. That ends the first reading for tonight.
Hello, everyone. Lolita, I was so impressed by your ability to say all those names that I would never have been able to do as well.
It's all done from the heart.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
Good answer.
And hello, Eva. Hello, Keith, and everybody
Hello.
else there.
Yeah, I'm glad you got here. Sorry about that. I should have realized you didn't have the new link. It was a different link.
No, but that's all right. I got in.
Yeah. Yeah, so there you go. That was the introduction to the good source. He's sourcing both Cayce and non-Cayce sources, Tibetan Buddhism in particular, and the Chinese Taoist tradition. So that makes it interesting. Always wanted to study these things, and now I finally am.
And Carl Jung and Ray Stanford, he's really looked at a lot of different things.
Yeah. Plus all the psychology studies he mentions. Sorry, go on, Lolita.
I was just going to say, Liz, I like the part that it says about the fake power.
Yes,
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
good.
There's only one real power in the universe.
Yes.
I love that part.
The rest is compensation for impotence.
Bogus, fakes, imposters.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of them around. Okay.
Go back to the start. The Inner Power of Silence. Week 1 continued, Part 1, Chapter 1. Why meditate? Do you ever feel that life must be more than your body, your belongings, and your physical experiences? Are you looking beyond the standard symbols of success, money, possessions, fame, influence, for something that can reach deep within you and spark an inner light? If so, adding meditation to your life may be the most important step you ever take. Meditation is a safe, direct technique for reconnecting to our spiritual selves. When this discipline is carried out on a regular basis, we can realize a host of physical and mental benefits. Some prestigious publications report that meditation reduces stress and many forms of anxiety, is effective for insomnia, hypertension, headaches, chronic pain, promotes creativity, especially in the visual arts. Just prior to studying or test taking may result in higher grades, may retard biological aging for hearing, vision, blood pressure. Practice correlates with positive marital adjustment. The beginning meditator should not expect these kinds of results immediately, although effects such as feelings of relaxation and stress reduction may be felt early in the regular practice of meditation. Meditation traditions typically take a long-term view of the benefits of the practice. For example, a study of Zen meditation published in the Journal of Clinical Psychology, Compton and Becker, 1983, reports that the desired effects of Zen meditation, most notably an increase in individual self-actualization, result only after about a year of meditating regularly. This extensive learning period is consistent with Zen philosophy and practice. Considering the enormous positive potential of meditation on all 3 levels of body, mind, and spirit, especially on a long-term basis, we should not be surprised to learn that many thousands of Americans and others in the Western world have begun the regular practice of meditation in recent years. The need for a spiritual ideal. The primary sources studied in the preparation of this book, both Eastern and Western in origin, stress the need for the meditator to consciously set a spiritual ideal for his or her life, or at least to give considerable thought to the question, why am I going to practice meditation? The Edgar Cayce readings has the strong statement that the most important experience that a soul can have in the material world is to set a spiritual ideal, from reading 357-13. The word ideal is distinguished from the word goal, in that an ideal refers to the how and the why of a course of action, i.e. the spirit in which it is done. Goal-oriented thinking is instead concerned with the what of an action or the results. The encouragement to consider ideals means to turn one's attention towards the process as opposed to the product. Govinda refers to this process of acting from the basis of a spiritual ideal as a reorientation, the turning about in the deepest seat of consciousness. 1969, page 124. This consists of letting one's life be directed by the inner spiritual nature instead of by the promptings of the outer material world. While most seekers would agree that this inner directed state would be desirable to attain, not all are willing to admit that one should consciously set an ideal for oneself as a step along the way towards this attainment. Some prefer to believe that, left to its own devices, the unconscious will eventually issue forth an integrated and enlightened personality, that the conscious mind has the responsibility only of getting out of the way and letting things flow. Govinda would disagree strongly with this attitude. Just as an artist will hold before himself the greatest masters as worthy examples, irrespective of whether he will be able to reach their perfection or not. Thus, whoever wants to progress spiritually must turn towards the highest ideal within the range of his understanding. This will urge him to ever higher achievements. For nobody can say from the beginning where the limits of one's capacities are. In fact, it is more probable that it is the intensity of our striving that will determine these limits. He who strives for the highest will partake of the highest forces, and thereby he himself will move his limits into the infinite. He will realize the infinite in the finite, making the finite the vessel of infinity, the temporal, the vehicle of the timeless. Govinda, 1969, pages 44-46. What then is the purpose for meditation? Many of the sources warn against meditating to obtain something directly for ourselves, for example, psychic ability or better health. Govinda even states that rebirth in the heavenly realms is not an aim worth striving for. 1969, page 239. These things may come as byproducts of meditation and should be accepted and integrated into our lives. However, the real purpose for meditation should be to attune ourselves to the infinite nature of being, to allow the infinite to express in the finite. One who meditates simply to escape from this involvement with the material world and with other people fails to achieve the ultimate potential of the meditative process. For he who strives for his own salvation, or merely with a view of getting rid of suffering in the shortest possible way, without regard for his fellow beings, has already deprived himself of the most essential means for the realization of his aim. Govinda, 1969, page 279. Most simply put, the language of meditation is the language of love. And love always speaks of giving and self-surrender instead of getting and expectations. The best purpose for meditation, in fact, the best technique, is to enter with a sense of giving of oneself rather than coming to get something. This is a very subtle matter because sometimes our wanting and expectations are for nice sounding things. But the most profound experiences of meditation are probably reserved for those times when expectations are shed for personal reward or benefit. In its place is the feeling of having given of self. When you want to evaluate the quality of your meditation, try the following method. Don't ask, what did I get? That is not the language of love, even when you may have received remarkable things like greater energy, or a feeling of being out of your body, or a psychic intuition. Instead, do your evaluation by asking, how deeply did I experience giving myself to something higher than myself? Describing the Taoist approach, Russell points out that, from a psychological standpoint, meditation should have as its aim the creation of a new way of being. Meditation changes the way we see ourselves and the way we see the world around us. However, it can do this only as we experience the union of the infinite and, up to now, unconscious forces expressing in the finite and not just talk about it abstractly. To open the way for new and meaningful shifts in our psychological components is one of the essential aims in meditation. It is of fundamental importance that man should actually experience and not merely note intellectually the opposite pole in himself, his unconscious and his vital force. Russell, 1960, page 95. In describing the psychological factors of meditation, Naranjo arrives at a similar conclusion, that the purpose of meditation is to come to the awareness of a new way of being and then to give expression to it in the physical world. Meditation is concerned with the development of a presence, a modality of being, which may be expressed or developed in whatever situation the individual may be involved. Naranjo and Ornstein, 1971, page 8. Stanford's readings contain considerable material concerning the relationship between purpose and spiritual growth. Describing various emotional disturbances, his readings rarely attribute the primary cause to a past experience or a physical structural problem, but instead to the lack of a direction of energy within the individual. The direction of energy is determined by the conscious purpose we set for our lives. Without this, the energy system that makes up the body and mind cannot be redirected to allow the awakening of a new and fuller sense of ourselves. At times, the tracing back in an individual of the experiences that have led them is helpful. But there are those who have become caught in the belief that some experience itself was the cause of an initial abnormal dispersion of energy from one of the centers drawn off of the energy reservoir, as it might be called in a sense, of the gonad center. It is not the event itself, but the lack of direction of energy. It is helpful to clear up the event or its aberrative effect upon the mind, but in most cases this cannot be done without a retransferal of that emotional charge in another direction. It cannot just go off into space. Hence we say purposefulness is the key. Stanford, 1977, page 12. Finally, those who have set a spiritual ideal and understand their purpose for meditating must have a sense of devotion if they are to succeed. Referring to the importance of such a frame of mind, Naranjo quotes the sutras of Patanjali, which make the point quite simply. Samadhi is closest to those who desire it intensely. 1971, page 63. Russell includes this quality of devotion as one of the prerequisites for those who consider taking up the practice of meditation. Meditation is no concern for curious persons wishing to perform psychological experiments, but only for men of integrity, still capable of devotion, veneration, and profound feeling. Russell, 1960, page 62. We titled this chapter, Why Meditate? And we identified some of the benefits of meditation for body, mind, and spirit, and further scientific evidence on meditation is presented in the appendix. But ultimately, you must answer the question yourself by determining the spiritual ideal for your life, perhaps by answering another question. What is my purpose in practicing meditation? Answering that question is easier when you know more about meditation, what it is, and what conditions are necessary for its practice. The next chapter aims at giving you that information. That's the end of part 1, chapter 1, The Inner Power of Silence.
Thank you, Russ.
Mm.
Mm.
I like this book.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it?
I really love this book. Yeah. Yeah, it's sort of, I felt a bit guilty, when it says that, you know, you don't meditate for what you can get, but you want the connection or the aligning with the spirit, and how the infinite will express through the finite. I like those bits. It's sort of like you know, it put me onto the straight and narrow. It's not, I don't meditate so that I can get, because I find that it comes naturally anyway. When you meditate, naturally the good effects come back. I'm dreaming a lot these days, by the way, and in Kala.
Meditation and dreams seem to go hand in hand.
Mm. And I
Mm.
remember it when I wake up, which is really interesting.
That's great. It's also great the way it says that our consciousness is not just going to develop without any involvement or effort on our part. Like, we should almost treat it like a learning art, following the masters. So in a similar way with our meditation practice, following the masters. So yeah, it's a very good point.
Yeah, I like the part where, you have to direct your energy into some purpose, like some good purpose, because I think that's where the healing comes in, self-healing. Maybe that's where a lot of the sickness, if you're not directing for a purposeful life or reason, if it's for selfishness, then it can cause illness and sickness.
Yep. It's good. Interesting. Okay, so chapter 2. Chapter 2, what is meditation? Meditation is a primary discipline in many religious traditions. Furthermore, some medical and psychological approaches for treating such symptoms as stress, anxiety, hypertension, and headache include a form of body-mind relaxation, self-hypnosis, or centering, which may become to be identified as meditation. In this book, 6 conditions characterize the process of meditation as we work with it. These 6 elements are drawn from both Eastern and Western sources, and all are necessary in our definition of meditation. The 6 conditions in meditation. 1, meditation requires focusing one's attention. All forms of meditation have this trait in common. Sometimes referred to as centering, it consists of 2 factors: concentrating one's energies and finding the center, the point of integration of one's being. Meditation is not letting one's mind wander and not allowing one's attention to dwell upon fantasies or phenomena that may arise from the unconscious. What is meditation? It is not musing, not daydreaming, from Cayce reading. 2, meditation requires letting go of thought patterns that have been controlling us and that have led us to a limited concept of our own being. The circulation of the light is not only a circulation of the seed blossom of the individual body, but it is even a circulation of the true creative formative energies. It is not a momentary fantasy, but the exhaustion of the cycle, soul migrations of all the eons. The above definition from The Secret of the Golden Flower refers to the exhaustion of the cycle in which the soul is drawn back time and again into the material world, reincarnation. These limiting thought patterns, these habitual response patterns, are what draw us back into the earth. Our karma can be thought of as the collection of our habits. In meditation, we shift our attention and sense of identification to a more holistic and unlimited concept of ourselves and move away from the limited and fragmenting nature of our habitual responses. Narano describes this as a very precise unfolding of experience to which the individual opens himself as he lays aside his habitual patterns of thinking and feeling and his superficial identity. 3, in the three-dimensional world, we experience ourselves as body, mind, and spirit. In meditation, the activities of body, mind, and spirit are brought into an attunement or state of unity. This concept is stated clearly in the Cayce readings and by Russell. What is meditation? It is not musing, not daydreaming, but as ye find your bodies made up of the physical, mental, and spiritual, it is the attuning of the mental body and the physical body to its spiritual source, from the Cayce reading. All 3, first the stream of the breath, then the stream of the seed, and finally the stream of the spirit, must be regulated by meditation, which guides and unites the streams. 4, the preceding chapter emphasized that the real purpose for meditation should be to allow the infinite to express in the finite. This experience must be part of the definition of meditation. Underhill describes this as the breaking down of the barrier between the surface self and those deeper layers of personality where God is met and known in our nothingness, and a mysterious fusion of divine and human life takes place. Since meditation must include all 6 elements, an LSD experience, for example, cannot qualify as meditation, although it may indeed break down the barrier between the infinite and the finite. It does so without an attunement of the body, mind, and spirit, and without the individuals having let go of habitual response patterns. 5, meditation works towards making the enlightenment of consciousness a permanent state of being, and is not simply a transitory experience as with drugs. The Secret of the Golden Flower uses the phrase making fast to describe this meditative process, fixating contemplation as indispensable. It ensures the making fast of the enlightenment. 6, meditation is an habitual process, not something done just once or occasionally. Govinda compares human consciousness to a musical instrument that frequently requires tuning anew. One of the most significant promises in The Secret of the Golden Flower refers to the daily practice of meditation for even 15 minutes, which can permit an individual to move beyond karmic patterns that would result in coming back into the earth 1,000 more times. Children, take heed. If for a day you do not practice meditation, this light streams out, who knows whither. If you only meditate for a quarter of an hour, By it, you can do away with the 10,000 eons and 1,000 births. All methods end in quietness. This marvelous magic cannot be fathomed. Thus, frequency and regularity of meditation appear to be a higher priority than length of meditation period. These 6 conditions then lead us to the following definition of meditation. Meditation must be an habitual process in which the individual focuses attention and lets go of thought patterns, bringing body, mind, and spirit into attunement, thus allowing the infinite to express in the finite, all with the goal of the permanent enlightenment of consciousness. This definition guides our selection or creation of a procedure for meditating. Whatever technique we use, it must help the individual focus attention and let go of thought patterns. In preparing to understand the universal meditation process described in the next chapter, we will first explore principles underlying the self-control needed for holding a focus and eliminating potential distractions. Without such understanding, the process may not be effective, or in the words of The Secret of the Golden Flower, the secret charm, the technique will not work. All changes of spiritual consciousness depend upon the heart. There is a secret charm, which, although it works very accurately, is yet so fluid that it needs extreme intelligence and clarity and the most complete absorption and tranquility. People without this highest degree of intelligence and understanding do not find the way to apply the charm. People without this utmost capacity for absorption and tranquility cannot keep fast hold of it. From Wilhelm. Here, we should understand the word intelligence to mean wisdom and sensitivity, not intellectual capability. Holding a focus, overcoming distractions. On the issue of holding a focus, schools of meditation differ widely on the kind of mental activity to be made a part of the procedure. Some approaches emphasize mental images, example mandalas, pictures of the master, while others teach that all imagery should be ignored. The primary sources for this book seem to agree that some form of mental activity is needed, at least in the initial stages of meditation. Images other than the chosen focal point are to be ignored or expelled. Evelyn Underhill, for example, refers to the first stage of meditation as recollection, and says it is the most difficult because it involves an act of will to go against the habits and impulses of the mind. An individual may spend years in this first stage. All the scattered interests of the self have here to be collected. There must be a deliberate and unnatural act of attention, a deliberate expelling of all discordant images from the consciousness, a hard and ungrateful task. Since the transcendental faculties are still young and weak, the senses not wholly mortified, it needs a stern determination, a willful choice, if we are to succeed in concentrating our attention upon the whispered messages from within, undistracted by the loud voices which besiege us from without. It's quoted from Underhill. Russell defines 3 preparatory stages in which the meditator moves from the constant flow of thoughts and images, monkeys at the foot of a tree, to a state of stillness and peace. All thoughts are bound fast in imagination to the body's center. The bond between logos and eros paralyzes the monkey thoughts. Consciousness, by an act of imagination, is shifted to the solar plexus, i.e. the unconscious. This produces a certain degree of relaxation, though there is still a faint striving to hold fast. This second preparatory stage of release or silence is called Qing. And 3, one now attains the third stage, in which there is no further effort or tension, the state of peaceful beatitude. Now at last, the stage has been reached in which something can happen to you. What you now experience is the content of your meditation, but images and ideas must be expelled at once. From Russell. In The Secret of the Golden Flower, distracting images that may arise after reaching a state of stillness are referred to as the fox spirits. The text warns that to pay attention to these, no matter how beautiful they may be, is to settle for far less than the potential rewards of proper meditation. Instead, one must return to the chosen point of focus. Naranjo identifies several characteristics of these points of focus, which he found in his study of various approaches. First is centrality, such as in the cross and the lotus. These images evoke the notion of a center around which action flows, as well as a radiation or emanation. A second characteristic is an expression of giving or of self-emptying, as symbolized in the cross or as verbalized in portions of the Lord's Prayer. Finally, many of these focal points demonstrate lawfulness or order, as typified in the geometric order of a Tibetan mandala or in the image of the seed syllables of a mantra. Cayce and Govinda provide very similar recommendations concerning the choice of a focal point for attention during meditation. Cayce refers to affirmations or verbal expressions of the spiritual ideal that has been chosen. His affirmations are usually from 1 to 4 sentences in length. Govinda's teaching is from the mantric tradition. However, the words of the affirmation or the Sanskrit syllables of the mantra do not work through any magic power within them. They come alive and aid in the transformative process only as the meditator dwells upon and experiences their meaning. Mantras are not spells, as even prominent Western scholars repeat again and again, nor are those who have attained proficiency in them sorcerers. Mantras do not act on account of their own magic nature, but only through the mind that experiences them. They do not possess any power of their own. They are only the means for concentrating already existing forces, just as a magnifying glass, though it does not contain any heat of its own, is able to concentrate the rays of the sun and to transform their mild warmth into incandescent heat. This may appear as sorcery to the Bushman because he sees only the effect without knowing the causes and their inner connections. Therefore, those who confuse mantric knowledge with sorcery are not very different in their point of view from the attitude of the Bushman. And if there have been scholars who tried to discover the nature of mantras with the tools of philological knowledge and came to the conclusion that they were meaningless gibberish, just because they had neither grammatical structure nor logical meaning, then we can only say that such a procedure was like pursuing butterflies with a sledgehammer. Pronouncing the mantra correctly, as if the vibration of the sound has some special effect on the body, is not even important. Govinda points out that if the efficacy of Tibetan mantras depended upon the correct pronunciation, they would have all lost their usefulness because they are not pronounced there according to the rules of Sanskrit, but according to the phonetic laws of the Tibetan language. Cayce states that Jesus gave the Lord's Prayer to his followers to be used as a focus for meditation. Its various parts are meant to affect particular spiritual centers within the body. Describing the way in which this prayer should be used in meditation, one Cayce reading says, "As in feeling, as it were, the flow of the meanings of each portion of same throughout the body physical." As the meditator says the words of the affirmation or the mantra, there is an inner response to its meaning. That awakening may be a feeling or a state of consciousness, but the meditator should focus attention upon that response. Most people find that in a very short time, the mind will drift off and start thinking about something else. At this point, the affirmation or mantra should be repeated. On the other hand, one who continually repeats it is not taking time to be aware of what is being awakened from within during the meditation. Holding to the form of the words so tightly that one ignores the spirit behind them does not lead to deep meditation. Pilot points out this necessity to go beyond the form when he describes using the image of Jesus as a focal point. In his study of Saint Bernard, he notes that, just as for Origen, visual meditation on Jesus is a preliminary stage leading up to the imageless contemplation of the Logos. Naranjo presents the Sufi meditation technique, which employs a statement of the ideal as a focal point. Of particular importance is the reference to the way the affirmation, zikr, causes an awakening of certain spiritual centers and other parts of the body. The zikr is not just repeated over and over, but becomes a total experience for the meditator, as is evident from the instructions in the final paragraph below. This double movement of affirming the transcendent unity of existence and denying the attachments of the ego to partial reflections of the one truth is the content of one of the most widespread forms of dhikr, the repetition of the words of the Prophet Muhammad, La ilaha illa Allah. There is no God but God. The following passage from Najm Medindaya, a 13th century Sufi classic, is most explicit on both the outer and inner aspects of the repetition. Having prepared a room which is empty, dark, and clean, in which he will, for preference, burn some sweet-scented incense, let him sit there, cross-legged, facing the Qibla direction of Mecca. Laying his hands on his thighs, let him stir up his heart to wakefulness, keeping a guard on his eyes. Then, with profound veneration, he should say aloud, La ilaha illallah. The La ilaha should be fetched from the root of the navel, and the illallah drawn into the heart, so that the powerful effects of zikr may make themselves felt in all limbs and organs. But let him not raise his voice too loud. He should strive as far as possible to damp and lower it according to the words, invoke thy Lord in thyself humbly and with compunction, without publicity of speech. After this fashion, then, he will utter the zikr frequently and intently, thinking in his heart on the meaning of it and banishing of it every distraction. When he thinks of La ilaha, he should tell himself, I want nothing, seek nothing, love nothing, Allah, but God. Thus, with La ilaha, he denies and excludes all competing objects, and with Allah, he affirms and posits the divine majesty as his sole object, loved, sought, and aimed at. Most people find that various internal and external distractions are formidable problems in meditation. One becomes aware of the discomfort of the chair or of an itch. Outside sounds pull at one's attention. Perhaps the best technique to deal with these distractions is to use them as they come into awareness rather than to fight them. In the words of The Secret of the Golden Flower, to become conscious of the distraction is the mechanism by which to do away with the distraction. Indolence of which a man is conscious and indolence of which he is unconscious are 1,000 miles apart from Wilhelm. The meditator may, for example, use the distraction as a reminder to return to the ideal or the spirit of the affirmation. To illustrate, an individual is focusing on the words, "May I be a channel of blessings to others," and hears a plane overhead. The meditator can take a few seconds to pray for the people in that plane, letting the prayer bring the consciousness back to the spirit behind these words from which attention has been distracted. Such a technique takes practice and a degree of ingenuity to work with the mental associations that accompany various internal or external distractions. This is reminiscent of the tantric tradition of turning a weakness into a strength. As one becomes aware of attention drifting off, the important response is not to fight the mind. This leads only to a cycle of frustration, contrary to the consciousness we seek to awaken in meditation. Breathing awareness. Along with focusing attention, breathing is an important issue to be considered in the practice of meditation. The relationship between consciousness and the breath has been noted by many sources. For example, our breathing patterns when we are startled or afraid are usually quite different from those in moments of tranquility. The meditator can use this principle to advantage in attempting to experience an expanded state of awareness. Yoga exercises teach several breathing disciplines that many meditators have reported to be helpful when used in moderation. Thus, breathing becomes a vehicle of spiritual experience, the mediator between body and mind. It is the first step towards the transformation of the body from the state of a more or less passively and unconsciously functioning physical organ into a vehicle or tool of a perfectly developed and enlightened mind, as demonstrated by the radiance and perfection of the Buddha's body. There are certain types of practice which are based on such universal principles that they can be applied to all normal human beings. The practice of anapanasati is the most important of them, and this is why the Buddha recommended it as the best starting point for any kind of creative meditation, Vedvanda. It is in this respect that anapanasati distinguishes itself from pranayama, which has been popularized by many yoga teachers in the West who follow the usual Hindu tradition. It does not try to control yama, the process of breathing, in the sense of trying to impose our will upon it, which would only assert our ego sense or the power aspect of our ego, instead of overcoming it. But it tries to make us fully aware of this vital process by identifying ourselves consciously with its rhythm and its profound implications. Thus, we experience the very nature of life by surrendering ourselves to its rhythm instead of interfering with it, because it is the rhythm of the universe that breathes through us. Instead of thinking ourselves as the agents and originators of this movement, I am breathing in, I am breathing out, etc., we should rather feel the universe breathes in me, streams through me. It is not I who is breathing, but the universe through me. The process of breathing, if fully understood and experienced in its profound significance, could teach us more than all the philosophies of the world. The preceding discussion of the special issues of holding focus, overcoming distractions, and breathing in meditation could be discouraging to a would-be meditator. So one must be careful not to get trapped in the Western attitude towards techniques that amounts to a desire for shortcuts to spiritual growth. Our culture has grown accustomed to quick changes, but the transformation of consciousness to a state of spiritual attunement is a slow process. We have discovered that we can manipulate nature with our machines, and we are tempted to try to manipulate the powerful forces that lie within the mind by techniques that promise quick results. Because of the Westerners' fundamental misunderstanding of the purpose of Eastern meditation practices, Russell gives the following warning. Oriental meditations are in large part unsuited to the European. He should undertake them, if at all, only under the direction of an experienced master. The two techniques that have been described previously, focusing on an affirmation or spiritual ideal and breathing, when done in moderation, should be safe for the Westerner. The Cayce readings imply that to overcome any fear one may have of meditation, one should understand that the ideal or purpose held in meditation determines what is awakened and provides the protection. Now that we have defined the basic elements of meditation and explored the special issues of focusing and breathing, we are ready to work in the next chapter with a universal technique for meditating. And that concludes chapter 2.
Thank you, Liz. That's really great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Liz.
Yeah.
And this is only the introduction. We're about to get into the meat of the whole process next time.
That's right.
I love the definition of intelligence, wisdom, and sensitivity. I thought that's a beautiful definition. Wisdom, I always think of it as the knowledge plus the application plus the experience. But now added the sensitivity, knowing what to say, when to say it, to whom to say it to. The sensitivity part is something that just embellish my definition of wisdom. I like that intelligence. Yeah.
I like the bit about the universe is breathing me rather than
Yes.
beautiful.
Yes.
That's right. To think about. It's not us, it's an automatic process. So that is where our unconscious or subconscious mind is. Yeah. It's good.
Well, it's that thing that says we live and move and have our being in God. But really, God lives and moves and has her being in us.
In us. I also love the application of the Eastern and the Western ways of meditation. I feel I'm stuck in the middle. I feel I'm stuck in the middle there. Yeah.
Yeah. I sort of think this will save us. In some ways, you feel like you should go and really research these Eastern techniques. And you also I think this book also emphasizes that there is a very strong Christian tradition of meditation that we don't sort of really fully acknowledge. So I think both those things are great. They're sort of bringing the East to us, and they're also bringing forward the Western tradition of meditation. It's good.
I actually got a shock when I read somewhere that these monks in a monastery actually practice meditation, and I said, "Oh, why do they do that?" Because I've been indoctrinated to think that meditation is of the devil, So, those priests are actually meditating.
Yeah, that is actually there is a Catholic tradition that meditation is evil and dangerous, and this chapter sort of highlights it's addressing the fears of the West and of some traditions, fear of meditation.
Yeah.
It's talking about safe for Westerners, which I think is rather gorgeous.
Mm. But doesn't that shows us that it's amazing how much truth and information is buried throughout the years.
Yes.
It's the same in natural healing, right? Because we've been educated in quotes in modern science, it buried a lot of the natural healing.
Totally. And that's exacerbated by the commercial interests of the pharmaceutical companies. And yeah, so unfortunately, that is where it's at. It's growing, obviously, thanks to Cayce. And in fact, I found that very interesting at the ARE Congress talk of how much the ARE had dedicated itself to promoting Eastern meditation, universal traditions, and also natural health. It said it really, put a lot of effort through the, especially this, I suppose, 60s, 70s, that sort of time frame, to really build it up. And it's interesting to know how much we can acknowledge that it could be credited with doing that, because it certainly has taken off in the West, and they really tried hard to promote it.
What comes to mind is he is actually a light bearer, isn't he? It's like a light under the bushel, so to speak.
Yeah.
He kept it alive. He kept the kerosene lamp, going.
Absolutely, that's exactly right. And it's something you can't assess, like how much can you credit the ARE with having done that, but it did do it. Like, it was one of the things it was doing. So it's good.
Yeah.
As an optimist too, I find that I am seeing what's happening now, in spite of the negativities that others perceive. I think there's actually a real big shift that people are now being exposed to the truth. It's coming from left, right, and center. That all this hidden information are coming on the top now, and the dross is settling at the bottom, and the gold rising to the top.
Yeah. That's the ideal. Yeah, totally.
And there are a lot of cleaning up problems at the moment, all over the world, in all different places, and all things to do. So
It's good. It's good, isn't
yeah.
it?
Oh yeah, yeah. The truth has to come up and to be shown, the real truth.
Totally. It hurts a bit, cracking through the layers of concealment.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And thank you to Keith for all the work he's done
Oh,
in
yeah.
the background in getting all of this set up and posting all of this.
No, I think Liz did all the work for this.
This
Wasn't
one.
I didn't do it. Liz did everything.
Oh,
But,
today the PowerPoints. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, you did all the. And yeah, thank you for carrying on the good work. So Liz takes all the credit for it.
That's cooperation.
Yeah. Like the different parts of the body, huh? The different parts of the body.
And thanks, Liz, for sending the email, because I wasn't planning to come to the Zoom meeting. I was going to go play pool. But when you sent the email, saying, "Oh, you host," I canceled the. Because when I play pool, it does drain my energy. It's not as good as being in a Zoom meeting here, where energies get refilled.
When we leave our Zoom meetings, we go away energized.
Yeah, well, we're ready for the whole week.
Yeah. Now just imagine what you can do playing pool after this.
All right.
Okay, so this worked well to have it every second week.
Yeah, if it works for you too, it's okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you are the busiest, Keith and Russell. But if it works for you, it works for the rest of us.
Yeah, well, yes, that'll be. This is a three-parter, is it? Part 2 next in a fortnight, and then a fortnight later the final part, or?
There's actually, I think, 5 chapters. So hopefully to do 3, 4, and 5 next week, in a fortnight.
Okay.
And then after that, part 2 of the book, I haven't looked forward to see what else there is in part 2, and there is an appendix they mentioned as well. So I guess I'll just look at doing 3, 4, and 5. If given their length, hopefully they're going to be a similar length to chapter 2 is a bit longer. So I'll just see what the length of 3, 4, and 5 are, and just put those hopefully into 3 PowerPoints, and then we'd be able to do that on the date. There is the Sunday, the 22nd of September. And then the following week, I think we'd be going, Lolita, you're away on the 6th, so we would be
Wedding, yeah, family wedding.
one after. So we'll definitely send an email to confirm that.
Thank you.
All right. So Keith, you're happy to be the host of that for that weekend. No playing pool on the 22nd of September. A virtual pool. I like playing pool, but you can't have Zoom pool. No, it doesn't work.
No, I prefer being here more in it. I get more energy meditating, praying, more positiveness.
Good on you.
Makes a difference.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming too, Margie.
Yeah.
Thank you, Russell.
Yeah, good to see you, Margie.
Oh, yes, thank you. I was rushing around and a little bit disorganized, but it was lovely to come. Eva, where are you from?
Have a guess.
Sweden.
Sorry, Sweden.
Yeah.
My name is Nelson, son of Neil. My great grandparents came from Sweden, south Sweden somewhere.
Wow.
Hoggarnes.
Oh, yeah.
In the south.
Sorry.
Hoggarnes, is it? I can't remember.
No.
In the south.
Well, okay. But I live in the southeast part of Sweden.
Okay.
Yeah.
You might even be distant related.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you know. Oh, yeah. You never know. You never know.
Yeah.
Until you go into Ancestry and do your DNA.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I never knew them, but my auntie used to write to her uncle, I think in
Okay.
some place called Hoggarnes or something. But we never saw those letters. It would have been good to do that.
Yeah.
Lolita, you're Philippine?
Yep.
My next door neighbour are Philippines, and they sing in the choir and they practice next door, and it's beautiful.
We love singing, Margie.
Yeah. I like it too.
Good. I'm glad you came, Margie. That's nice.
Nice to be there. It was some of it's familiar because the meditation center I was in was a sort of background of Buddha stuff. And so yeah, some of it was familiar. I've sort of forgotten the context, but it wasn't very far from what I'd been learning anyway. That was good to be refreshed.
Good. All right. Shall we?
Well, have a wonderful fortnight, everyone, and some of you I will see tomorrow night.
Yeah. Thank you, Russell.
One of you I'll see next Saturday.
Oh, yeah. You're welcome. Looking forward to it.
I've actually been invited to share some stories with the Swedish group.
Beautiful.
Some of my experiences, and as I said to Eva, I will talk to anyone, anywhere, anytime about the Cayce material and my work with it.
Good on you, Russell.
Mm.
Okay.
Okay, well,
Thank you, everyone.
someone's going to have
Thank
to press
you.
the red button. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.